Hello, everyone. Now that situations in Ukraine and in Israel unfold in parallel, we're seeing more and more connections. Same people are involved, same message is sent by the same people, and results are highly surprising. One of the things I brought up recently while the House was bickering over the speakership was that the moment the Republicans get back to work, they're going to demand a split between the aid package to Israel and the aid package to Ukraine. And if the Democrats refused the split and demanded the joint package, the Republicans then had an excuse to turn around and accuse Democrats of refusing to support Israel by not passing it as part of the package with Ukraine. Guess what? Step one of that has already happened. They are splitting the package. Other things. Some progress has been made by Ukrainian armed forces, both in the south and in the east. As I mentioned before, and there are multiple sources now confirming this, Russia made a big mistake trying to reestablish control of the east. The stuff that has been once occupied by Russia, then retaken by Ukraine, and now they're trying to push Ukraine out of it. So in an attempt to have some kind of victory, no matter how small, they threw everything there. And because of the shortages of people willing to fight, they withdrew some of the troops from the southeast of Ukraine and from the south, thus leaving that area wide open. And so Ukrainians took advantage. They continued fighting like the angry buzzsaws in the east, but they also took advantage of the weaknesses in the south, specifically taking out what was left of the air defenses in Crimea. So that means basically right now, whatever Russian troops are left in Crimea and along the coast there are completely isolated. There's no supplies, there's no air defenses, their radars are dead, they have no satellite connections, they have nothing. And all they can do is basically sit and wait. UN continues to be useless. I know this is not particularly news, but I just wanted to let everybody know that, we got status quo intact. So UN Human Rights Group is saying that the missile strike that killed almost 60 people in the village of Hroza was launched by Russia, and there was no legitimate military target for them to hit there. Really? Really? The attack against the village of Hroza took place 3 weeks ago. It took you that long to figure out that Russians basically just struck the shit out of a bunch of innocent civilians? Well, gee, give them, a few more months. Maybe they will arrive at the conclusion that Russia had no legitimate reason to attack Ukraine in the first place. Just, give them a little more time. They're busy. So this article is in the Foreign Policy magazine, talking about long-term consequences of this war. And this goes back to what I was talking about when we're talking about the money, the aid to Ukraine. I was pointing out that if people think that they will get the money if the aid is diverted from Ukraine, they're wrong. Because let's say aid to Ukraine is not provided and Ukraine wins. Considering the precedent, the US and other countries will likely still beef up their military budget. So that money will likely go right back to Pentagon, right back to the Department of Defense. If Ukraine loses, heck no, you're not getting that money, because now we have Russia on Europe's doorstep. And once again, everybody's going to start beefing up their military complex. In either case, basically not sending aid to Ukraine is not going to help anybody at home. Get this through your head. Not going to happen. That's not what hurting you. You want to complain? Tell your rich people to pay taxes. That might actually make it back to you. But the aid to Ukraine or any of the other numerous foreign aid packages that are out for debate right now, one way or the other, that is not something that's going to go back to the taxpayers. I have an update on the story about the airplane that was very nearly attacked by the angry mob in Makhachkala. To remind you, this is in Dagestan, which is largely Muslim. First, the mob poured out into the streets and went to a hotel where they thought there were Israeli refugees. They very nearly burned the building down, although eventually it was proven to them there were no Israeli refugees there. Dissatisfied, they went and stormed the airport and nearly attacked the airplane that just landed from Israel. So I now have the details about what that airplane was and why it was coming from Israel. People aboard that airplane were not Israeli refugees. They were Dagestani, mostly women and children, mothers coming home with their kids from Israel, where they went to begin with to receive medical treatment because they couldn't get it in Dagestan. I seriously doubt Israeli doctors who treated those children and those women asked them if they were Muslim or Jewish or atheist or anything, and whether they supported Israel or Palestine. They just did their job and sent their patients home, hoping them to be safe, only to have the patients very nearly wiped out by an angry mob looking for Israeli refugees. And then there is this. Again, the hand of Russia is visible throughout all of this. Basically, in a Russian-occupied town, a family of 9 has been killed. Why? Because Russian soldiers came barging into their house and demanded that they surrender the house for the soldiers to stay. When the family refused, everyone was murdered. So, do you see the pattern here? Russia shows up, barges in whether or not wanted, demands to take something that is not there. And when people refuse, they're killed.